Hello, Professor. I'm Jeffrey Rima, and this is my In-Flight Emergencies PowerPoint project. Today, I chose to cover inadvertent flight into icing conditions as my in-flight emergency because I think it's important, especially in this time of year when trying to plan cross countries, to understand the effects of ice on an airplane and to know how to deal with it in case you find yourself in an inadvertent situation where you're collecting ice on your wings, your propeller, your windshield, your air filter, or anywhere else on the aircraft. So I thought it was a very important topic, especially going into the winter when trying to fly some cross countries for my commercial rating. So without further ado, let's get into the PowerPoint. First, I wanted to define an emergency. An inadvertent flight into icing condition occurs when an aircraft is flown into visible moisture and the temperature is near or below freezing. Icing normally occurs on an aircraft between 2 degrees Celsius and 10 degrees Celsius, but can occur up to 20 degrees Celsius. Negative 20 degrees Celsius. Ice under negative 20 degrees Celsius does not normally adhere to a cold aircraft. However, ice can melt on a warm aircraft and refreeze in freezing temperatures. Icing conditions affect every force necessary for flight. Thrust can be reduced due to ice formation on the propeller and on the air filter. The aircraft also starts to weigh more due to the buildup of ice. Lift is reduced as well, and drag is increased because ice disrupts the airflow over the wing and causes the airfoil to change its shape. Appropriate in-flight actions. Even aircraft with anti-ice or de-icing capabilities are not designed for prolonged flight in icing conditions. These aircraft only allow more time to get out of the icing conditions. In a Cessna 172, which does not have any anti-icing/de-icing capabilities, flight into known icing is strictly prohibited and must be avoided. If ice is encountered during flight, immediately take measures to get out of the icing conditions. This can be done by climbing above the icing level or to a temperature below 20 degrees Celsius where ice is not likely to stick, or descending to warmer air. If either of these options are unavailable, it may be necessary to reverse course or turn away from the visible moisture. Since ice can block the intake and impair the aircraft's performance, important care must be taken to ensure that the engine is still operating at peak RPM. This is accomplished by controlling the throttle and fuel-air mixture. The Cessna 172 Pilot Operating Handbook, or POH, contains a checklist for an inadvertent icing encounter during flight. This is a page taken from the King's Course references in the Cessna 172. First, if encountering inadvertent icing, it's important to turn on the pitot heat switch. This will allow the aircraft to maintain pitot-static system pressure through the pitot tube. Also, turn back or change altitude, which we talked about earlier, to obtain an outside air temperature that is less conductive to icing. Like I said, less than negative 20 degrees. Cabin heat control knob on, defroster control outlets open. This is so you can defrost the windshield so you can stop visibility outside. Also, the cabin air control knob. This is to adjust the amount of air that flows through the heater. Watch for signs of induction air filter icing. A loss of engine RPM could be caused by ice blocking the air intake filter. Adjust the throttle as necessary to hold engine RPM. Adjust mixture as necessary for any change in power settings. Plan a landing to the nearest point with an extremely rapid ice buildup. Select a suitable off-airport landing site. With an ice accumulation of a quarter inch or more on the wing, leading edges, be prepared for significantly higher power requirements, higher approach and stall speeds, and a longer landing roll. Leaving wing flaps retracted. With severe ice buildup on the horizontal tail, the change in wing wake airflow direction caused by wing flap extension could result in a loss of elevator effectiveness. Open left window, and if practical, scrape ice from portion of windshield for visibility in the landing approach. Perform a landing approach using a forward slip if necessary for improved visibility. Approach at 65 to 75 knots depending on the amount of ice accumulation. Perform landing in level attitude, and missed approaches should be avoided whenever possible because severely reduced ice climb capabilities. This checklist here is meant to give the pilot an opportunity to hopefully land the aircraft in a safe manner and avoid any type of emergency that is caused, or any type of further emergency that could be caused by ice. Post-flight action. In the case of inadvertent flight and icing conditions, no mandatory notifications are required. However, flight services should be contacted and a PIRIP should be filed to advise other aircraft of the location, altitude, and severity of the icing conditions. If an off-airport landing is required, notification is only required if there is damage to persons or property. However, anytime an emergency is declared, the FSDO or NTSB could request the report.